Hi everybody. I'm just hanging out with my friend Paco here. That's Paco. Get back. Just back off, Paco. Daddy's shy. Bye bye. Yeah. Okay. Hey, back to reality. Hey, you guys. We've been doing a lot about problem. We spent the last week defining a problem, like really fine tuning it, learning about an issue, and then defining the problem, learning about that problem, specific problem, and hopefully you now have a lot of information about that problem. Like its history, some of the causes and effects of that problem. Sort of who's affected by that problem. How engaged is MSU in this thing, and and so you're now going to embark on the brainstorming, throwing ideas and solutions at this, we're looking for some really creative ideas here, unusual, different kinds of thinking, not just like, oh, we'll make an app, done, we're done here, we'll make an app, that is not a very good solution. If that's the solution, then you probably don't have a good problem, and you're not going to have a very good grade. You want to have a problem that is worthy of a creative brainstorming session. So what we're going to do now, you're going to generate ideas that using something called convergent and divergent thinking. Brainstorming is actually something that was invented by a guy named Alex Osborne. He was an advertising executive. You take things like the word brainstorming for granted, but that actually was invented by somebody. So it's really the whole concept of brainstorming is to generate lots of ideas, tons and tons of ideas. Suspending judgment, just completely suspending judgment and analysis. You're just, as crazy as they sound, it can be insane freaking ideas. Matter of fact, the crazier the better. But again, based on reality. That's why you've been doing all this knowledge gathering in the last 2 weeks, so that you could actually have informed ideas. It's basically a way to come up with a lot of ideas without any judgment, and for everyone to be involved in that. To participate, not just the dominant ones in a group. So that's what you're going to be doing after this. And we're going to be using convergent and divergent thinking to do that. It's a two-phase process. And then at the end of that, you're going to ask if you're going to evaluate whether or not you really have gotten the right, part of the process of converging on one idea is to evaluate whether or not that is the right idea, and I'll talk about that in a bit. This isn't going to be a very long talk. I just want to explain to you what divergent thinking is and what convergent thinking is, and also some questions you can ask yourself about those. Sort of like some criteria for whether or not you think you've got the right idea here. Divergent. The first thing you're going to do is diverge. You're going to just diverge from the norm, diverge from the predictable, diverge from traditional thinking patterns. You're going to just come up with crazy ideas. Now, and I mean generate lots of ideas. Where anything is possible. And again, no judgment, no analysis. Don't even judge yourself. Just think of ideas that might apply to the situation. Then you're going to all talk about your ideas. I'm going to have you pick your 10 best ideas, your 10 favorite ideas, and then you're going to narrow those down to one idea. Or maybe combine. You'll hear things and you'll want to combine something somebody else said, and you go, oh, if we combine that with this, that would be amazing. So it doesn't mean just any one person has to have the right idea. Or the right solution or path to a solution. It just means that you're all throwing out ideas, and maybe it's going to be an amalgamation of those ideas. And divergent thinking, you might find yourself stuck with, at one idea or four ideas. Remember the word. Remember the exercise we did that was word association. Again, just look around the room and try to find something that is a word. Maybe it's going to be curtain, or, and then mine that word for all the different terms that you can come up with. It's very much like where I talked about the big toothpaste hole on the toothpaste tube. That might have been inspired by the word manhole. You just never know. So the word curtain might come up. Just try to get like 20 words out of the word curtain. You can do this while you're silently doing your divergent brainstorming, thinking. So curtain might, with the word curtain, you might come up with like, performance, theater, privacy, all kinds of things. So you mine all of those words, and then you take each one of those words and see if you can apply them to any of the ideas that to the problem that you at hand. Is there any margin, any way any of these things inspire an idea? So there are ways to jumpstart that brain of yours that is stuck. Try to do word association and force it, and see what you can come up with. Again, no judgment. So once you've come up with all of these ideas, we're going to share those ideas with each other in the group. Of course, by the way, this divergent and convergent thinking works perfectly well when you're alone too. You can do this by yourself. If you're asked to come up with a solution to a problem, you can do this alone. But in this case, you're going to now pick your 10 best ideas and voice those to the group. Again, at this point, there's no comment, no criticism. You're just going to mention your ideas. Once you've all discussed all of those different ideas, you've all not discussed. Once you've all talked about them, now what you're going to do is you're going to begin the process of convergent thinking, of basically eliminating the less attractive possibilities, so that you can start whittling those off first. Again, you're going to do this through analysis, criticism, some logic, argument, discussion. You're going to talk about these things now. Maybe you should jot down the ones that really leapt into your mind that, wow, I hadn't thought of that. That's a really good idea. So again, you're going to converge. You're going to bring this down. You're going to try to tighten up this divergent thinking and whittle it down through discussion. And this is where criticism and analysis comes in the convergent side. Brainstorming involves both those phases, divergent and convergent, but they never overlap. The divergent is just free of thought and criticism or analysis, whereas the convergent is very definitely part of the convergent, definitely all of that stuff. So that's where you're going to have a discussion. Really try to whittle it down to one idea, perhaps one combined idea where you've picked different things out. The strongest ideas are where you pick up 3 different things or whatever, from different people's ideas, and you go, wow, that's a really good idea. I want you to think about these things when you come up with a single idea. I want you to, so everybody get out a piece of paper. I want you to think about this. Now or certainly during the process of choosing an idea, you can think about these things. But also at the very end, ask yourselves again, is this the best solution? Have we chosen the best idea? And some of the things you can ask, the criteria, you'll have this criteria in your head while you're brainstorming, and maybe your group could discuss some criteria before you get into the discussion of convergent thinking discussion. Like, what exactly are our criteria? And what do I mean by criteria? Well, it has to fit. It has to achieve certain goals. Like, why is this idea better than all the others? So, does it achieve the goal? Does it solve the problem? Like, if you're thinking, gee, that's perfect, and everybody's feeling that, then you probably are onto something here. Does it tackle the whole problem, or is it only dealing with a part of the problem? Like, so if you're thinking like, oh, that's pretty cool, that'll help. That'll definitely help solve the problem, but it's not going to solve the problem. Is it just a partial solution? Or, are you redefining what that problem statement is? Do you really want to go there? Does it have a downside? Are there trade-offs? Like, does it is it going to impact something else? Is there a downside? Really think about that. Like, this gets fixed, but wow, look at the problem it causes over here. Who will oppose this idea? Are you ready to come up with a plan to overcome that? One of the things you cannot do is you're going to be typing up a report on this, and what you cannot do is say, oh, we'll meet with the university administration and convince them that this is the right thing to do, period. That is not a solution. That is some bullshit statement that you just said. You've got to figure out, what are you going to do to convince them? If they're going to lose $2 million because you're making parking free or something, well, gee, they're not going to like that. They like their $2 million or whatever they make from parking. What are they going to? How are you going to convince them? How are you going to replace that $2 million? So who will oppose it? Is there a good cost to benefit ratio? How much is this going to cost? Last semester, somebody said, buy 10 more buses. Do you know how much a bus costs? Do you know what they said they were going to do to raise that money? They were going to have a foot race, and have people sponsor every, mile you run. That is not going to raise $10 million. Be realistic about this. A bake sale is not going to build a new stadium. So don't be stupid like me. So is there a good cost to benefit ratio? Is it simple and direct? Or is it incredibly complicated? You've got to get 14, is there another way that is slightly simpler, without going through all this mess, like getting, the president of the United States to sign off on it or something? Is it sustainable? Will it work over time? Is this something that's a permanent solution, or is it just a quick fix? So, you can come up with your own questions, other evaluation sort of criteria, but I want you to think about all of those things. I hope you wrote these down. I'm sure there are a lot of people just sitting there going, I don't write shit down. Someone else in the group is writing it down. God, I hope I never have to work with somebody like you. But anyway, Paco and I are going to leave now. Hey, Paco! Hey, see you guys later. Hasta luego.